Princess Zara lived in a castle, surrounded by servants, riches, and the beauty of her kingdom. Everyone adored her for her kindness and grace, and many suitors from faraway lands came to ask for her hands in marriage. But Zara's heart had already been taken by a prince named Basi. Basi was handsome and charming, and for a time, they were inseparable. They would walk in the royal gardens, laughing and dreaming about their future together. Zara believed that Basi was her true love, but one day, everything changed. Basi grew distant, cold, and stopped coming to see her. Zara didn't understand what had gone wrong. She tried to reach out to him, but he ignored her completely. Then she heard the devastating news. Basi had fallen in love with another princess, a royal from a neighboring kingdom, and was to marry her instead. Zara's heart shattered and broken. She felt betrayed and abandoned. The joy that once filled her life had been replaced with sorrow. Her father, King Orion, tried to console her, but the pain was too deep. One evening, unable to bear the sight of the castle or the pitying looks of her family, Zara fled. She ran into the vast forest that bordered her kingdom, seeking solace in the quiet wilderness. The forest was dark and wild, filled with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant animal calls. But Zara didn't care. She wandered aimlessly, letting the tears stream down her face, her heart too heavy to turn back. She walked for hours, deep into the forest where few dared to venture. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the trees, Zara realized she had lost her way. The once peaceful forest now seemed eerie, and the sounds of night creatures filled her with unease. She sat down on a fallen log, exhausted and unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, she heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. Her heart raced and she stood up, ready to flee. But before she could run, a large dark figure emerged from the trees. It was an ape, tall and muscular, with deep brown eyes that shimmered in the moonlight. Zara froze, expecting the creature to attack, but to her surprise, the ape simply watched her, its expression calm and curious. For a moment, they stared at each other in silence, and Zara's fear slowly began to fade. "Who are you?" she whispered, though she knew the creature could not answer. The ape tilted its head, as if understanding her sadness. Slowly, it stepped forward and offered her a small wildflower it had picked from the forest floor. Zara blinked in surprise. It was a gentle gesture, one that touched her in a way she hadn't expected. She accepted the flower, a small smile forming on her lips. "Thank you." The ape nodded, and without another word, it turned and disappeared into the trees. She slept on a wooden log near a cave that night. Over the next few days, Zara found herself drawn back to the forest. She had no reason to return, no logical reason at least. But something about the peaceful wilderness and the mysterious ape made her feel at ease. She felt no judgment in the forest, no pity, no heartbreak. Every time she ventured into the woods, the ape would appear. At first, they simply sat together in a quiet companionship that made Zara feel less alone. But as the days passed, she began to talk to the ape, sharing her thoughts and feelings. She told him about her heartbreak, about Prince Basi's betrayal, and how she no longer felt like herself. To her surprise, the ape seemed to listen, his eyes full of understanding. Though he never spoke, Zara felt as though he could hear her, as though he truly cared about her pain. One day, as they sat beneath a large oak tree, Zara looked into the ape's eyes and said, "I don't know why, but I feel like you're the only one who understands me." The ape reached out and gently touched her hand, and in that moment, Zara felt a warmth spread through her chest. It was the first time since her heartbreak that she had felt anything other than sadness. As the weeks passed, Zara's feelings for the ape deepened. It was strange and confusing at first. How could she fall in love with an ape? But the more time she spent with him, the more she realized that love wasn't just about appearance or status. The ape had shown her kindness, compassion, and a deep sense of care, things that Basi had never truly given her. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, Zara looked at the ape and said softly, "I think I'm falling in love with you," she said loudly, even though she knew the ape didn't hear her language. The ape's eyes widened, and for a moment, Zara thought she had made a mistake. But then, to her amazement, the ape placed a hand over his heart, as if to say he felt the same. Tears welled up in Zara's eyes, but this time, they were tears of joy. For the first time in months, she felt whole again. "I don't care what anyone says," she whispered. "I love you, and that's all that matters." Zara knew she couldn't keep her secret forever. One day, she gathered the courage to return to the castle and tell her father about the ape. She hoped that King Orion, who loved her dearly, would understand. But when she stood before him in the grand throne room and spoke of her love for the ape, the king's face darkened with disbelief and anger. "An ape?" King Orion exclaimed, his voice booming. "You, a princess, have fallen in love with a creature of the wild? This is madness." Zara stood her ground, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's not madness, father. He's kind and gentle, and he loves me. Isn't that what you want for me?" King Orion shook his head, pacing back and forth. "This is not love, Zara. You're confused, heartbroken from Basie. You cannot marry an ape. The kingdom will never accept it." "I don't care what the kingdom thinks," Zara said firmly. "I've found someone who truly cares for me, and I'm going to be with him." But her father was unyielding. "I forbid it," he said, his voice cold. "You will not marry that creature. I will not allow it." Despite her father's disapproval, Zara continued to see the ape in secret. But word of their strange relationship began to spread throughout the kingdom, and soon, whispers of the princess and the ape reached the ears of those in the royal court. Many were horrified, and some sought to put an end to it. One day, as Zara met with the ape in the forest, a group of royal soldiers appeared. They had been sent by the king to capture the creature and bring an end to the scandal. Zara cried out as the soldiers surrounded the ape, binding him in thick ropes. The ape roared in fear and anger, but he could not escape their grasp. "No," Zara screamed, rushing forward. "Let him go!" But the soldiers ignored her pleas and dragged the ape away. Zara followed them back to the castle, her heart breaking with every step. When they reached the castle, the ape was thrown into a cold, dark dungeon beneath the royal chambers. Zara begged her father to release him, but King Orion remained firm in his decision. "This is for your own good, Zara," he said. "You cannot marry a beast." But Zara knew in her heart that her love for the ape was real, and she would not give up on him. Zara could not bear the thought of the ape trapped in the dungeon, cold and alone. She visited him every day, speaking to him through the iron bars, trying to keep his spirits up. But as the days passed, she knew that they couldn't go on like this. They had to escape. Late one night, when the castle was quiet and the guards had grown weary, Zara devised a plan. She stole the keys to the dungeon from the head guard's quarters and crept down to the underground cells. Her heart raced as she unlocked the door to the ape's cell. "We're getting out of here," she whispered, her eyes gleaming with determination. The ape, though weak from his time in captivity, nodded. Together they slipped through the castle's dark halls, avoiding the guards and making their way toward the forest. It was a dangerous journey, but their love gave them the strength to keep going. As they neared the edge of the forest, the sound of barking hounds filled the air. The guards had discovered their escape. "Run!" Zara cried, grabbing the ape's hand as they darted into the trees. The forest was dense and dark, but Zara knew its paths well. She led the ape deeper and deeper into the wilderness, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter with each step. Eventually, they found a hidden cave far from the castle, where they collapsed, exhausted but free. In the days that followed, Zara and the ape built a life together in the forest. They found peace in the wild, away from the judgment of the kingdom and the expectations of royalty. They built a home together and gave birth to a male child. They moved into the forest and lived happily forever.